Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. As you guys know, or maybe you don't know, if you don't know, you're probably not subscribed. If you're not subscribed, I'll cry. Please consider subscribing, it's a huge help. But for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do know, I am in college for media studies, and I am taking a film class. And in said film class, we watch movies. Naturally. And next week, I'm supposed to watch Aliens. Aliens with an S at the end. It's a sequel. Which is the dumbest name for a sequel. But I decided to watch the first one because I wanted to make sure that whatever I was watching in the second one was going to make sense. And we had the week off, so I was like, I might as well just watch it anyway. And so today we're going to be talking about Alien. Alien was released in 1979. It was written by Dan O'Bannon and directed by Ridley Scott. So, no spoilers, but for those of you who don't know what the movie is about, essentially, it is about this group who is traveling through space, and they get a call nearby that they have to stop by and figure out what's happening on this alien ship of some sort. Although they're not sure if it's aliens, it could be another cruise ship, they're not entirely sure. So it is about them basically exploring, and as you can tell by the title, there is an alien. By now, this is pretty, usual to see in a movie. But back in 1979, this is probably the first time something to this stature has been completed, right? Like nowadays, we have completely CGI characters like Thanos, right? Like when you see Thanos on screen, you're like, yep, that's Thanos. It's like nothing weird or different is happening there on screen. But you'll notice that when you talk to older people about Alien, they're like, oh, wow, yeah, it was really, really cool. It's still really cool. And like, I'm trying to view it from their perspective, okay? So I'm not going to give any points off for effects. However, that being said, most of these are practical, if not all of them. I do commend them on that. You can tell, but I do commend them. It is 1979, so they really don't have a whole lot of choices in terms of special effects. But I am very impressed with the special effects designs. However, in terms of story, pretty dry. We start out really, really slow. Like, it puts you there, it's like, boom, like, there's characters. But you don't know the characters, right? You don't. You don't have any feeling for these characters whatsoever, which is really annoying to me. I hate when they do that. I have no idea where they're coming from. We know they're going to Earth. We don't know where they're from, which, sure, it's not important. But, like, I need to know for my sake, It's like, I can't just plop me down in the middle of these characters and expect to, like, understand them. Especially when there was, like, I don't know, like, I think there was 7 of them to start with. I literally only cared about one character. Like, I'm only talking about one actress today, because the rest of them, like, just were not nearly as important as this one. And it's like, if you're going to introduce these characters, introduce them in a way that is going to make sense to the audience and show that they all matter, right? Like, there's no point in having, say, Pepper Potts in Iron Man if you're not going to show what she can do, right? Which is why they give her a little bit of a backstory. They have a little bickering back and forth to establish that. And they're sitting around the table in this movie, and, like, they're just talking about going home. And it's like, yeah, they're all going home, but from where? Who are these people? And there's this one big secret that I'm not going to spoil that happens in the middle of the movie that you're like, what? Like, it's weird because you'd think somebody would have noticed by now. They've been living together for what we can assume is like 14 months, because I believe they said it was 14 months, maybe it was 10 months, to get back to Earth, and they said they were halfway home, which means they've been together for, like, it's possible years, and, like, they didn't figure this out. And it's just, like, there's just weird issues that I have with it, with the story arc. The good news is that it gets better, right? Like, after the first quarter of the film, where it's, like, super slow, we do get a cool, we do get a very good, fast, and steady-paced ending that ends in a finale that, while I'm not particularly happy with, I'm not upset with. I think the ending was fine. I think it was an okay ending for a movie like this. I'm not going to spoil it, but I think it's okay. I don't really know where the second one's going. I don't really care, to be honest with you. It's also way longer, like a lot longer. So I had to budget some time for that. But I'll be watching that this following weekend, so make sure you guys are tuning in for that. But more stuff that I'm interested in talking about here: the sound design. I think they did a pretty good job with choosing sounds. I think they were like, all right, this is what the aliens sound like, and then they like did their magic, and it sounded like that. And like, props to you. That's great. The issue that I had with the sound was that it wasn't very synced. There were times where like people would mouth or scream and nothing would be heard. And while I get to the point of the movie, there's like a line where it's like, you know, no one can hear you scream if you're in outer space or whatever. In space, no one hears you scream. But this is times where like he was like, there's a guy screaming. All right, everyone knows that scene where the alien pops out of the chest, right? Everyone knows that scene. So slight spoilers. There's an alien that rips itself out of some guy's chest. Okay, and there's like a few shots that they did that in, and there's this one where he's like, right, where like you can tell he was screaming when they were filming that, and they just cut it out, and I'm like, I can see him screaming, and I'm just getting no audio, sorry, and it's really annoying when people do that. It really does bother me because sound design is so important for a movie. It's something that I've always been interested in as well as a musician. For those guys who don't know, I play the trombone, the trumpet, the French horn, the baritone, the tuba. I play brass instruments. I play all of them. Like, if you give me a brass instrument, I guarantee you I can play it. And so I've always been interested in, like, you know, soundtracks. And in school, we did a couple of them. We did a Lord of the Rings soundtrack. We did a Pirates of the Caribbean one, which, if you're not listening to Pirates of the Caribbean while you're studying, try it. It's one of the best things that's ever happened. I do it every time I study. Even sometimes when I'm just reading, I'll put on the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack. It's really great. But this movie didn't really have much of a soundtrack. It wasn't distracting, which was nice. I think it was a good soundtrack. But the sound design as a whole, which is where they decided to put the soundtrack, where they decided to put the vocals and all that stuff, wasn't very great in my opinion. It didn't hit home where, like, you know, you're like, oh wow, it's flawless. They're talking at me. It was like, oh wow, they went in and they dubbed that later. You can totally tell, which you don't want your audience to tell. But again, it's a small thing because I genuinely enjoyed the movie. I loved the second half of it. I loved it. Like, I really think it was really fun and really fast paced and really energetic and really fun. However, the beginning was very slow and not very fun. The character's not very fun to follow. The sound design throughout just isn't great. I don't know where the sequel's going. I have no clue. I could not tell you. I'm hoping it's more like the second half of this movie, but for the whole time. Because if not, it's going to be a long couple hours. I've heard good things about it, but I have to watch it regardless, so I'm going to watch it. I do want to talk about one actress, and that's Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. She's great. She really is. And that's kind of the problem that I had was it felt like they hired her, who's a great actress, to play a great part, and then didn't have any budget for anybody else because everyone else was kind of okay. I had no problems. I had no quarrels with anyone else, but like they just were not as good as Sigourney Weaver here. And she was really fine, like really good. Not to mention pretty attractive, which I'm assuming is why they had her in there, because they only had one other female in there and they never showed her. Which in the 70s, you know, especially in the 70s, I could say even now it still happens where they put extremely attractive people in roles, important roles, just to sell tickets to men, which worked, probably, I would assume. But she really was fantastic. I think she was really great, really, really stern, really fun to watch. I'm really excited for the second one because I hope she brings more of that, you know, strictness and really, really fun and energy and action sequences. Really, she has some really cool action sequences that I think could be even elevated. The fact that it's in the 80s is exciting to me. I don't remember when the second one comes out. I think it's 84, but I could be wrong. 84 is one of the greatest years of filmmaking of all time, including 85. You know, 84 and 85, I think, are two really great film years. But I think it's going to do it for me talking about this movie. And I'm going to go ahead and give Alien an A-. I really liked this movie, but there were some issues with it that I really couldn't look past. And, you know, some older people that I've talked to are like, oh, well, it's a great movie. It's like one of the best movies of all time. Like, yes, I get that in the 70s it was really good. But right now, given all that we can do, I understand that it was really good back then, which is why I'm not giving it a bad grade. Those issues are minimal in comparison to other things that I could have had issues with. The really big issue that I had was the plot and how very, very slow it was in the beginning. But that's going to do it for me today. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It's a really, really huge help. I would really appreciate it. Looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow we're doing Wolf Walkers. I actually forgot that I'm doing that. I have to film that. So make sure you guys are looking forward to that. We're also going to be doing Godzilla tomorrow, kicking off my MonsterVerse series, which is going to go throughout Wednesday so we can catch up on Godzilla vs. Kong. So make sure you guys are checking that out. Next week is Godzilla vs. Kong for Monday through Wednesday. And then looking forward to the following month, because it's going to be April. We're going to do Beautiful Boy and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, followed by my Aliens review. So make sure you guys are checking that out. And as always, keep watching movies and television, stay educated, and I'll see you guys in the next video.